Ash from Super Videos back for another video for season 10 of The Walking Dead. So they just released a brand new trailer for the second half of season 10 of The Walking Dead, which I wasn't expecting. Obviously, they released the first trailer for the second half right after the mid-season finale, so when I saw that, I didn't think they would release another major trailer, but they're doing that, which is absolutely cool. Now, when I went through this trailer, it got me extremely hyped for the second half. There's a lot of cool stuff in here that I don't know if a lot of people noticed. I'm sure most people did, but just in case people missed it, I'll point them out. But the entire trailer is like 30 seconds, but it has a lot of cool things in there. So let's jump right into it. First up, we have this shot of Daryl at the Hilltop. So this is most likely related to the battle at the Hilltop. We know the Whispers are gonna send in a herd towards the Hilltop. They're gonna attack the Hilltop, and this is most likely part of that. And then we have this shot of, again, the same scene, but it's from the other way around. And we see Daryl's vest. Obviously, he lost one of his wings, but we did see in a different shot in the first trailer, Judith was actually fixing it up for him. So this is most likely after she fixes it up. Daryl is holding this kind of cool-ass mace weapon, which we do see him using later on in the trailer, so that's absolutely cool. We also see on the walls of Hilltop the best. Now that's part of the promotional title card that they have. It's not in the actual episode. It's just something that they have for the trailer. So it's gonna say the best it's been in years. So the best is here, and then in years part is gonna come later, which I'll point out. But this is basically just telling the audience The Walking Dead is best it's been in years. It's like a quote that they have for someone who might have reviewed the second half or something. But you get the point. So then we have this shot which has the in years part. But obviously this is part of the battle at the Hilltop again. We did see them prepare with the same kind of structure in the premiere of season 10. So they're just using that now in a real life scenario. Then we have a different shot which is again part of the same scene. But what we do see, which is interesting, is Yumiko is here and Kelly is here. And this Hilltop battle obviously happens after the cave trap moment. So we do know Kelly makes it out of that alive. Now, she was in my list of people who might die. Obviously, this confirms that she makes it out alive. Aaron is here, and there's some other characters in the background. And in the voiceover, Daryl says, "We don't fight for revenge." And then later on, he goes on to complete that sentence by saying, "We fight for our future." Now, that was also in the first trailer, so it's nothing new. This entire trailer doesn't have any new dialogue. It's just new clips that are included in there. Then we have this shot of Michonne. Now, what's very interesting is that she is carrying around zombie pets or walker pets. If you remember, that's exactly how she was introduced. And since this is Michonne's new look, this leads me to think that this is part of her send-off story. And like they do most times, not just Walking Dead, but in entertainment, her story is going to go full circle, because her story started off with basically having zombie pets, and now it's going to end with her carrying zombie pets. Now, I don't know what this is going to involve, obviously, but it's going to be interesting to see how they integrate this into her send-off story. They did the same thing with Rick. When he was introduced, we saw that "Don't Open Dead Inside" sign. That was on one of the doors inside the hospital, which was definitely iconic. And then they reused that, brought that back for his final episode to make his story go full circle. Of course, they did many more stuff in parallel to that, but that sign, "Don't Open Dead Inside," was one of the key things. So it's going to be extremely interesting to see what they do with Michonne, how her story is going to come full circle. Then we have this shot of Carol. She appears to be shooting maybe walkers. This might be during the Hilltop battle as well, which again confirms that Carol also makes it out of that cave trap alive. So that's interesting. Then we have this shot of Rosita. She has this kind of armor, which is pretty cool. She seems a little taken back, a little shocked. I don't know if she's just seeing a herd coming in, if she sees some whispers, or what that's about. But it's going to be interesting to see what they do with her this season, or this half of the season. Now, she was in my list for characters who might die coming up in the second half. So I wonder if this is going to be part of like a mini battle where she ends up dying. So that's going to be interesting. If you haven't checked out my death predictions video, make sure to go check it out. There's like 4 different parts to the series. each video or each part to the series is going to look at a different community. So make sure to go check that out. Then we have this shot of Daryl and King Ezekiel, and they're just shaking hands. Now what's interesting is the facial expression that Daryl has. Look at it. Look at Ezekiel. I think what's most likely happening here is Ezekiel is telling Daryl about his cancer and the fact that he may not be alive for much longer. Now, I will talk about Ezekiel in depth on a separate video in terms of his cancer story and what might happen with that and whether I think Ezekiel is going to die. But in short, I don't think Ezekiel is going to die. I think that they're just using Ezekiel having cancer as a plot device to connect to the next storyline coming up after the Whispers. And I'll talk about that in depth on a separate video that I'll do. But this is a pretty cool shot. I'm sure that the other shot that was in the first trailer that had Ezekiel and Carol together may be from the same scene. So Ezekiel might have told Carol already about his cancer or will tell Carol after this scene here. Then we have this shot of Father Gabriel looking inside Negan's cell. Not sure what this is about because, of course, we know that he knows already that Negan escaped. So, not sure why he would be looking inside the cell again. Maybe he's looking at someone else. Then we have this shot of Luke during the Hilltop battle. He's just going to swing his mace, weapon, whatever that is, and kill these walkers. Now, what we see in the title card is the best in years from Vanity Fair. So that's part of the quote that I talked about earlier, where I think they're just promoting this half season and they're using Vanity Fair's review of the second half. So they're saying it's the best it's been in years. So I think this definitely does connect to the title card we saw earlier. But in the voiceover, Daryl finishes his sentence by saying we fight for our future, which I talked about earlier. Then we have this awesome shot of someone sticking their hand out of a grave. Now this is definitely a fresh grave, an unmarked grave, but who is this person sticking their hand out? Now obviously this is awesome because of the whole zombie thing, because when you think about zombies, you think about rising from the dead, hand sticking out. If you just search zombies on Google, that's the first thing you'll see probably. So that's cool because it throws you back to classic zombie movies and classic zombie stories. So that's pretty cool. But just looking at it from a Walking Dead perspective, it's interesting because at this point, everyone knows you have to stop the brain or kill the brain before you bury someone. Because if you don't, they're gonna turn and basically come out of their grave like we see here. So not sure why they didn't do that in this case, because if they did, then the person inside of the grave wouldn't be able to rise from the dead because their brain is destroyed, so they won't turn into a walker. So the fact that they didn't do that here is interesting. Now I hope that this is not just a cool thing that they decided to include in the trailer and they don't revisit it and they just completely ignore it, because that would be stupid. They did that with Michonne in the first half with her holding Lucille. Now that scene might come around in the second half. We don't know whether it will, but I hope it does. This is pretty cool. Now, the big question, is this someone we know? I don't have the answer for you, but had to have been a big character. They wouldn't do this just for any character. It's just too iconic for them to just give to a random person. So that's very interesting. Then we have this shot of Beta. He's inside the Alexandria safe zone. He's breached the walls. Now, I've talked about this on a separate video, but I think he most likely used the sewers as a way to get in. We did see in the first trailer, he got underground using an RV in the middle of nowhere, and then we see him inside the safe zone here. So that to me indicates that he might have used the sewers to get into the Alexandria safe zone. Now, how he might have known about the sewers is a different question, and I think Dante is the key to that answer. I think Dante probably spilled the beans about Alexandria and its vulnerabilities. We do know that Dante was a spy for the Whispers. We do know that he gave them information about Alexandria and maybe other communities. So it's not completely bizarre for us to assume that he gave out information about the sewers. Then we have this shot of Father Gabriel with a shotgun. That's interesting. We haven't really seen them use guns recently, so it's very interesting that he has a shotgun. But this is most likely part of like a battle. Now, this is in the middle of the woods, I think, so I don't know if this is at Hilltop, or maybe this is part of a different battle. Then we have this pretty cool shot of Gamma, or Mary, and she looks beat up, so that's pretty interesting. Is this a scene where she's fighting maybe Alpha? It could be. It could also connect to another shot that was in the first trailer where we saw Alpha. She was beat up, she was bleeding a little bit, but then she had blood on her, which may not have been her blood. So that's interesting. It might have been part of her fight with Gamma. Now, I have talked about this before. I think there's probably going to be a fight between Alpha and Gamma, and Alpha is going to come out of that fight, and she might end up killing Gamma in that fight. Now, what that fight is about, that fight is most likely about Alpha finding out that Gamma is a snitch. Then we have this shot of Michonne. Now, this is interesting because she has a bandana. Her hair doesn't seem to be as long as it was when we last saw her, and she appears to be wearing some sort of a leather jacket. That's interesting. Look at this shot where Michonne was seen holding Lucille. She has the same exact outfit. That's extremely cool. So that to me hints that we might be seeing this scene come to life somehow in this specific scene. So that's pretty cool. But she is seen killing some walkers. Now, this person seems to be holding a gun now that I look at it. So not sure what this is about. So maybe this is a flashback, but then it can't be a flashback because I don't know. I don't want to speculate here, but I don't know if this is a flashback or not. Michonne looks like her new self, but I could be wrong about that. But the fact that this person is holding a gun is interesting. Let me know what you think about this specific scene in the comment section below. Then we have this shot of inside the cave. So we have Magna and Connie here. Of course, like I've talked about before, someone from Magna's group is most likely going to die in this cave moment. Now, who that's going to be is not really clear at this point. I thought that it was going to be Kelly for the longest time, but we just saw Kelly at Hilltop, or at the Hilltop battle. So she probably makes it out alive. So both Magna and Connie are at risk. Now, there has been rumors that Connie might be getting a fake out death, which I don't really like, but we're going to have to wait and see what happens. Now, if you want to check out that video, click the link that's going to drop on the top right, and you'll be able to get my full thoughts on that. Then we have this shot of Alpha and Negan. This is a pretty cool shot. We saw a similar shot in the first trailer. Now, I don't want to speculate too much again, but this could be Alpha and Negan going to a secluded area, which may end up leading into a very, very iconic comic moment. I'm not going to say too much, but comic readers know exactly what I'm talking about. Then we have this shot of Daryl hiding behind some trees and rocks and stuff. Now, this was part of a teaser that we just recently covered on the channel. I'll leave a link that'll drop on the top right so you can go and check it out. But this is basically Daryl watching the cave entrance. This is the aftermath of the cave trap moment, and Daryl came back for whatever reason, and he's watching walkers get out of the cave. Then we have this shot, which is inside the cave, I think, and this is Kelly. Then we have this shot of Rosita attacking someone. Now, this relates back to another shot that was in the first trailer where there was a whisper inside her house. So she sees the whisper and attacks the whisper. Now, there's been a lot of questions who that whisper could be. I'll leave a link to another video I did covering that on the top right so you can check that out. But there's a possibility that we might be looking at a second Whisper spy. Then we have this shot, which I absolutely got hyped for. And this is Negan in his skin suit. Now, what tells me this is Negan is the leather jacket and the gray shirt. This has to be Negan. It can't be anyone else. So it's cool. We have a skin suit on Negan. Love to see what they're going to do with Negan, and, you know, would love to see what they're basically going to remix as far as Negan's story is concerned, or whether they're going to keep that exactly like it was in the comics. Then we have this shot of the cave trap. We have Carol here, surrounded by walkers most likely, that we see here. Then we have this shot of, I think, Hilltop. This might be part of the Hilltop battle, but we have Judith here. Then we have this shot of Alpha, some whispers, shooting their fire arrows at Hilltop community. This shot is replicated directly from the comics, which is pretty cool. So this is part of the Hilltop battle, of course. And then we have this shot of Eugene and Rosita. This is again part of the Hilltop battle, I think. Rosita throws her weapon at the walkers, who we see here. So that's pretty cool. We have this shot of Aaron and Eugene's. Then we have some Walker hands. And then here we have survivors in the back with their shields. Daryl with his awesome mace weapon, throwing it at some walkers. And then the trailer ends with this shot of Daryl hitting one of the walkers with his mace weapon. But that's pretty much everything that was in the trailer. Hope you guys enjoyed. That's it for this video. See you next time for another super video. If you like what you see, press like, subscribe for more content, and press the bell button to receive notifications for daily uploads.